every time James looked at me, I felt a strange fear, the fear that I might lose the control I had fought so hard to maintain. Every glance, every word he spoke made me uneasy, as if I was standing on the edge of a cliff, unsure of which path to take. And when our hands brushed against each other, I felt something shift inside me, a storm, intense and overwhelming, that I couldn't take back. It was a quiet Thursday evening, one of those unnervingly still nights where the house seemed to hold its breath, enveloped in an unsettling silence that felt heavier than usual. The clock on the wall ticked ominously, each sound echoing in the silence as I curled up on the couch, my legs drawn tightly under a soft fleece throw, seeking comfort in the growing unease. I found myself immersed in an old black-and-white movie, the very essence of nostalgia that once captivated my younger self, a time when life felt uncomplicated and pure. The house had belonged to me alone for nearly 5 years, a silent witness to the aftermath of my divorce. The quiet had become a familiar companion, wrapping around me like a soft blanket. Each early morning, I would sip my coffee on the porch, the world still shrouded in dawn's embrace. Long walks with my neighbor's golden retriever brought fleeting moments of joy, while evenings stretched out, filled with the comforting presence of books, puzzles, or the low murmur of the television, each sound a reminder of the stillness that enveloped my life. That night, I had just settled into the last half of the movie when the door creaked, a subtle sound, not the kind that would send shivers down your spine like in those heart-pounding thrillers, but just enough to draw my attention, igniting a flicker of unease within me. And there he stood, James, my daughter's best friend from college, a figure shrouded in unspoken complexities. It had been years since our paths last crossed, the last memory etched in my mind being the day he helped her move out after graduation. In those days, he was a captivating young man, exuding charm with his boyish demeanor, kind eyes that sparkled with warmth, and a laugh that could light up the darkest of moments. Now, standing in my living room, drenched from the gentle spring rain outside, he appeared transformed, older, more imposing in his shoulders, with a serene, assured expression that felt unfamiliar to me. "Elizabeth?" he inquired, his voice barely above a whisper as he edged into the room, the air thick with uncertainty. "I'm sorry I knocked, but I don't think you heard me. The light on your porch flickers ominously. I found myself in town, visiting my family, and thought I might reach out to you, if that's all right." My eyes fluttered open, struggling to grasp the unfolding chaos around me. "James, oh my goodness, please step inside. Get away from my rug with that water dripping off you." He smiled, that same easy, familiar smile, but there was something different in the air as he stepped inside, a tension that hung like a storm cloud ready to burst. I handed him a towel from the hallway closet, and we lingered in a quiet moment of reflection that often follows unexpected reunions. He looked around the living room, his gaze resting on the armchair draped with the quilt I had crafted long ago, and the photographs on the wall, capturing memories from his last visit. "You look wonderful," he whispered, his voice filled with sincerity. "It's really good to see you again." I chuckled softly, tucking my silver-streaked hair behind my ear, a fleeting moment of lightness amidst the weight of unspoken thoughts. "Flattery, after all this time?" He let out a low chuckle, his head nodding slowly at the flickering screen, a hint of intrigue dancing in his eyes. "Are you really still watching those ancient classics?" "Some things remain constant," I replied, a weight hanging in the air between us. "Care to take a seat? I will prepare the tea." We found ourselves in a silence that felt heavy, as if the years apart had woven an intricate tapestry of unspoken understanding between us. He shared with me the story of his work, revealing how he had relocated to Denver, yet still found moments to return and visit his parents, each visit laden with unspoken emotions. I shared with him the details of my seemingly tranquil existence, the stories that captivated my mind, the relentless growth of the plants in my garden, and the antique shop where I dedicated my time each week. It was easy, comforting, yet an undercurrent of something more lingered in the air, a subtle shift, a charged warmth in the way he looked at me. It wasn't inappropriate, just different. He looked at me not merely as his friend's mother, but as a person, a woman, igniting a spark of something unexpected. At one moment, he reached for the mug of tea I'd placed on the table, and our hands brushed, an unintentional touch that lingered, leaving a soft warmth in the air. His eyes met mine, and in that fleeting instant, the room seemed to quiet down, as if the moment had deepened into something meaningful. He lingered for a moment, and I found myself unable to break free. Then he smiled, a flicker of hesitation in his eyes, a hint of uncertainty shadowing his expression. "I think it's time for me to leave," he said, his voice heavy with unspoken words. "I'm sorry to intrude on your evening." "You didn't barge in," I whispered, the weight of the moment hanging heavily between us. It was nice, but there was an undercurrent of something more, a flicker of tension that lingered in the air. Surprising, yet delightful. He rose to his feet, and I trailed behind him, my heart racing as we approached the door. The rain continued to fall, each drop shimmering ominously under the flickering streetlight. "Will you consider visiting again while you're here?" I found myself asking, uncertainty gnawing at me, yet it felt instinctive, almost inevitable. James hesitated, his gaze drifting as he nodded slowly, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. "I would truly like that." He stepped out into the rain, and I quietly closed the door behind him, the sound echoing in the heavy silence that followed. My heart raced, pounding in my chest with an intensity one had never felt before. I turned back toward the couch, the tea still warm, the movie still flickering on the screen, yet an unsettling shift hung in the air, altering everything around me. I sank into my seat, eyes fixed on the screen, yet my mind was consumed by a haunting vision that eclipsed reality. Something had shifted within me. A door, long sealed and forgotten, had begun to creak open just a fraction, and I was left trembling, uncertain of the shadows that awaited me beyond it. The next morning, I found myself clutching my coffee, the minutes stretching into an agonizing eternity. The early sun pierced through the kitchen window, casting sharp, golden stripes across the counter, igniting a sense of anticipation in the air. I fixated on the steam swirling from my mug, haunted by the echoes of last night, his voice, his piercing gaze, the fleeting touch of his hand against mine. Years had passed since a moment like that had seized me so unexpectedly. I tried to silence the whirlwind of thoughts in my mind. James's actions seemed to carry a weight, a flicker of uncertainty lurking beneath the surface. Was he truly being polite, or was there something more? The air thickened with unspoken questions, leaving an unsettling tension hanging between them. Yet it remains far from suggestive. Yet, beneath the surface, a flicker ignited, a sensation I hadn't experienced in ages. The undeniable truth loomed. I was reluctant to cast it aside. As the clock struck midday, a restless energy surged within me, compelling me to take action and break free from the weight of my emotions. With careful precision, I tackled the wild tangle of my rose bushes, cutting back their unruly growth, while the garden shed stood silent, waiting for the chaos to be swept away. As I brushed aside the cobwebs, memories of his visit flooded my mind, the intensity of his gaze lingering like a haunting whisper. It was not the gaze of someone merely observing an old friend's mother. It was filled with a deep, unsettling curiosity that lingered in the air. As I prepared dinner, the sky transformed into a haunting shade of lavender, casting an eerie glow over everything. As I placed the pot of soup on the stove, a sudden knock echoed through the silence, sending a jolt of anticipation coursing through me. My heart raced in an instant, and I reminded myself once more to resist the urge to leap to conclusions. But it was him, the one I never expected to see again. "I hope this isn't the wrong moment," James said, his grip tightening around the brown paper bag. "I brought over some of my mom's homemade bread." I sensed it would perfectly complement the aroma of that soup wafting through the air. My eyes fluttered open. "Come in," I urged, my voice trembling with anticipation. The timing couldn't be more perfect. We found ourselves at the small table by the window, the very spot I typically claimed as my own. We gathered around the table, sharing a meal and words, and the comfort from the previous night enveloped us once more, as if it had never truly departed. Yet this time, it radiated with an even deeper warmth, igniting a flicker of something more profound between us. He probed with questions that pierced through the surface, about my life after the divorce, about the dreams that still flickered within me. It took me by surprise, the depth of his attention, the way his interest felt so profoundly real. As I spoke of the little coastal town I had always dreamed of visiting, he leaned in, his gaze intense, as if the very air between us crackled with unspoken possibilities. "There's something about the way you tell your stories," he remarked, his voice filled with respect. "It brings a sense of calm." I can't believe I let that slip away. A surge of heat coursed through my chest, igniting a storm of emotions within me. It felt like an eternity since anyone had ever described me as calming. Useful, dependable, sure, but does it bring a sense of calm? Once dinner had concluded, we retreated to the living room, the air thick with unspoken words and lingering emotions. The night enveloped us, a heavy shroud of darkness that seemed to pulse with unspoken secrets. I switched on some jazz, its smooth notes filling the air, and we settled onto the couch, our bodies inching closer, the tension palpable, more charged than the night before. James's gaze lingered on the photos adorning the mantel, faded memories of my daughter, and a haunting image of me with her father, a time when love still burned bright. "Do you long for it?" he whispered, his voice barely breaking the silence. "To be with someone, I mean." I hesitated, the silence stretching between us like a taut wire, heavy with unspoken words. It was a question that laid bare my soul, yet there was an undeniable warmth in his voice that wrapped around me, granting me the courage to reveal my deepest truth. "I long for the companionship," I said, my voice trembling with unspoken yearning. A presence, a voice in the darkness, a companion for the long, lonely nights. Yet, I find no longing for the shadows of invisibility. He gazed at me, his eyes piercing through the silence, and I felt it once more, that delicate energy swirling between us, faint yet impossible to ignore. "I don't think anyone could ever take you for granted," he said, his voice filled with admiration. That line, seemingly simple and kind, pierced through me with an intensity one never anticipated. We remained apart, yet the distance between us felt thick, heavy with unspoken understanding, delicate and undeniable. As he rose to depart, I found myself guiding him to the door once more. The night air hung heavy, a stark contrast to the warmth of the evening prior, and I caught the moment he faltered. "I'm leaving town Saturday," he said, his voice thoughtful, "but I'd really like to see you again before I go." "I'd like that too," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, the weight of unspoken feelings hanging in the air between us. We lingered in that moment, a heavy silence that once filled me with dread, yet now sent my heart racing with an intensity one couldn't ignore. He smiled, a fleeting moment of warmth, before stepping into the night. I remained at the door, heart pounding, as his silhouette melted into the shadows, swallowed by the darkness of the path. Inside, I flicked off the lights, sank into the couch, and allowed the heavy silence to envelop me. But now, that silence was charged with an unsettling weight. It was a silence that held its breath. Saturday arrived with an unsettling swiftness. The sky that morning loomed heavy and overcast, shrouding my kitchen in a muted, somber gray light that seemed to whisper secrets of the day ahead. I navigated my familiar routine, yet an unsettling sensation lingered, as if the very atmosphere was poised in a tense silence, waiting for something to unfold. I stole anxious glances at the clock, each tick amplifying my uncertainty, my heart racing as I questioned whether he would arrive before it was too late. A part of me wrestled with the weight of its significance. It had been merely 2 fleeting evenings. Our only exchange had been words, yet the weight of them lingered heavily in the air. Yet, deep within me, a different narrative unfolded, a narrative I had long buried, refusing to acknowledge for what felt like an eternity. By noon, a decision had crystallized within me, heavy with consequence. I refused to stand idly by. I baked a lemon pound cake, the very same I used to prepare for guests when the house brimmed with laughter and joy. I placed it on the counter, my eyes darting to the window with an urgency I can hardly confess. Just after 2, the doorbell pierced the silence, echoing with an unsettling urgency. I moved slowly, yet my heart raced with urgency. As I swung the door open, my breath caught in my throat. There he stood, clad in jeans and a jacket, a hint of scruff shadowing his jaw, and that smile that sent my heart racing. Yet this time, his eyes revealed a deeper complexity, a blend of tenderness intertwined with doubt. "I wasn't sure if it'd be all right to come by," James said, his grip tightening around the brown paper bag. "I never intended to impose." "You're not," I said, my voice steady as I stepped aside, the weight of the moment hanging heavily in the air. "You've arrived just when I expected you." He entered with deliberate slowness, his gaze sweeping the room as if he were etching every detail into his memory. I offered him coffee and a slice of cake, and we sat at the kitchen table, our proximity charged with unspoken tension. The silence stretched, heavy and fraught, not because I questioned my answer, but because of the weight of its implications. To say yes was to confront the undeniable truth that our bond transcended mere chance. It was a profound desire we both yearned to delve into. As he stepped through the door that Friday evening, the embrace lingered, a charged stillness enveloping us, now heavy with unspoken words. There was no act, no facade, only a profound, intensifying connection that flourished in the open air. We spent the weekend immersed in the most ordinary moments, cooking side by side, strolling along the lake's edge, and losing ourselves in old movies, wrapped in each other's warmth on the couch. Yet beneath it all, an undercurrent surged, soft yet relentless, drawing us ever nearer. On Saturday night, we found ourselves beneath the vast, shimmering sky, a blanket cocooning us in warmth, our glasses of wine trembling slightly in our grasp. I once believed that I needed to transform into a different version of myself to earn someone's love. I confessed, my voice barely above a whisper. Sleeker, more youthful, and devoid of complexity. James's gaze pierced through me, brimming with an intensity that felt both unwavering and profound. "You're more real than anyone I've ever encountered," he whispered, his voice trembling with intensity. "And that's precisely why I've come." I reached out and touched his face, allowing my hand to rest there for a moment. The deep lines around his eyes, the warmth radiating from his skin, the way he instinctively leaned into my touch, as if seeking comfort. It all felt raw, unvarnished. That night, silence spoke volumes. We lingered in the charged stillness of a fragile connection, teetering on the edge of something profound and breathtaking. In that moment, time stood still, as two souls, each navigating their own tumultuous journeys, stumbled upon a connection that felt both fragile and profound. As he departed the following day, an unexpected calm washed over the moment, leaving no trace of pain behind. It was never truly farewell. It was the dawn of a desire we both yearned to cultivate with care and purpose. As I stood by the window, my heart raced, watching him drive away. A bittersweet smile tugged at my lips. Love had not eluded me. It had merely chosen a winding, tumultuous path. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. We've got more emotional stories coming your way that you won't want to miss. Let us know what you think about this story in the comments, and stay tuned for what happens next.